Good morning, one and all. So let us start today's class. Before that, so let me go through the some of the problems. So here, so there is it is a problem on a sampling. Now, so the problem says a band limited signal is sampled at Nyquist state. The signal can be recovered by passing the samples through. So I told you already, if it is a sampled with Nyquist rate, what is Nyquist rate? That is a minimum sampling rate. How much is that? 2 FM. Okay. So if it is sampled with Nyquist rate, what happens? So there won't be any gap between the copies of the spectrums. So that's why. So how to recover this? You need a ideal band pass filter with a bandwidth that is exactly equal to the your message bandwidth. Okay. Now, so they are given some options. So here we need an ideal low pass filter with a appropriate bandwidth. How much bandwidth is required here? That is same as the bandwidth of your message signal. Okay, it is very simple question. Next, another question. So a signal has power spectral given in the figure like this. The minimum sampling rate needed to completely represent the signal. So the moment the minimum sampling rate means what? It is also equal to Nyquist rate. It is also called as minimum sampling rate is also same as Nyquist rate, that equal to 2 FM. Now, so this is spectrum they gave you. Now, so suppose, so you want perfect reconstruction. So what should happen? Your Fs should be equal to 2 FM. Okay. Now, so but what is FM? So that is nothing but actually that is a maximum frequency component of your given analog signal or continuous time signal. So what happens here? Now here this is the something like sinc function. So it is called main lobe and they are called side lobes. So in these scenarios, what we take here is, so what is the maximum frequency of the main lobe? It is in kilohertz. It is 1 kilohertz because so we take only the main lobe which contains 90% of the power, whereas the side lobe they don't contain much power. That's why we take only the bandwidth of the main lobe, that is 1 kilohertz. So that would be the maximum frequency of the signal. Okay. Now what is the answer now? So minimum sampling rate is nothing but Nyquist rate, that equal to 2 FM. So Nyquist rate equal to 2 into 1 kilohertz, that equal to 2 kilohertz. Okay. Now, so one more example. A signal has a frequency components from 300 Hz to 1.8 kHz. The minimum possible rate at which the signal has to be sampled. Again, they are asking Nyquist rate. So you find out this. This is something like homework. Okay, you tell me the answer. So here, what the answer would be? What the maximum frequency of this signal? 1.8 kHz. So what is Nyquist rate would be? 2 into that FM equal to 2 into 1.8, 3.6 kHz. So one more question. So consider a sample signal y of t like this. Okay. Now where x of t is a cos function, Ts equal to 100 microseconds, and y of t is passed through ideal low pass filter with a cutoff frequency of 5 kHz. The output of the filter is. So this is ideal sampling. We are doing sampling. What are we doing? We are multiplying x of t with a train of impulses. Okay. So you find out the spectrum. Okay, what do? You find out the spectrum, and the spectrum is after the spectrum is passing through a ideal low pass filter having a cutoff frequency of 5 kHz. Now you have to find out what is the output of this ideal low pass filter. Okay, so the logic is very simple. You just find out the spectrum of the signal. Otherwise, take the Fourier transform of y of t. Okay, and after that, pass that Fourier transform through a low pass filter, ideal low pass filter with a cutoff frequency of 5 kHz and find the output. Okay. Now, so that is about sampling, and we have seen quantization. It is two types: uniform and non-uniform. So in the uniform, the delta will be constant. In the non-uniform, the delta will be variant. So in uniform also we have two types: mid-rise, mid-thread. So there are two types of uniform quantizers. So the basic difference is what I told you already. So here in mid-rise, the origin lies in the middle of the rising part of the staircase-like structure. Here origin lies in at the mid of the thread of the staircase-like structure. So there are two types of uniform quantizers we have. Now how to quantize? What is the quantization? So discretization of amplitudes. Okay. So otherwise rounding up the sample value to the nearest quantization level. Okay. Now, so we have seen what is the quantization, and there is something called quantization error. So that is nothing but difference between sample value and quantized value. This will be in this shape. So with the maximum value lies between plus delta by 2 to minus delta by 2. So we have seen, so if it is a uniform distribution, so this is the PDF, and from the PDF you can find out the mean and mean square value, and so mean square value gives you the power. So otherwise mean square value is same as variance. Why it is so? Because mean is 0. Now this is the quantization noise power, that is delta square by 12. What is delta? It is called step size, that equal to Vm x max minus x minimum by L. Otherwise it is 2x maximum by L if the signal is symmetric. Now if you substitute everything in this formula, you get like this. Okay, so this is in the logarithm form. So this is the quantization noise power in dBs. Okay, now in the same way you can also find out SQNR, that is signal power by quantization noise power. So that is nothing but sigma x square by sigma q square. So if you do all the calculations, it is something like this. So this is SQNR in normal scale. It is in dBs. Okay. Now it is for n equal to 1, n equal to 2. What is n? It is a encoding bits. So what you can observe? So SQNR increases by approximately 6 dB for every additional bit of encoding. Okay. Now, so if you draw the graph between relative input power versus SQNR, it will be a linear curve. Which means what is happening? So if input power is less, SQNR is less. If input power is more, SQNR is more. Okay, that is not desirable actually. Okay. So these are the values for sinusoidal input. So this very important formula is 1.8 plus 6n. So that is SQNR if and only if the message signal is sinusoidal signal. It is not random signal, it is a deterministic signal. It is called deterministic signal. It is not random signal. Okay. So you must find out all those things. Now, so we'll discuss about non-uniform quantization. It is most widely used in the speech signals. Why? Because so in the speech signal, there are two types of signals: weak signal, strong signal. So mostly we speak using weak signals. Rarely we use strong signals. Okay. Now, so here the weak signals which are having smaller amplitudes, they occur very frequently. So that's why we wish to provide the maximum accuracy to the weak signal. So whereas we don't bother about the strong signal because they occur very rarely. Okay. Now to provide or to protect the weak signals from the noise, we need to go for the non-uniform quantization. So how to protect weak signals or small amplitudes? By decreasing the delta. Okay. What do we do? So for small amplitudes, small delta; for larger amplitudes, larger delta. This is what the theory behind the non-uniform quantization. Okay. So by doing so, we are improving the SQNR of the weak signal, because we wish to provide security, or we wish to protect the weak signals, because they occur very frequently compared to the strong signals. Okay. Now this is the non-uniform quantization, where the step size varies according to the input amplitude. So if you move away from the origin, the step size increases. So this diagram which tells us about the uniform and non-uniform quantization. So how to realize the non-uniform quantization? By using a compressor. So we use a compressor and followed by a uniform quantizer is nothing but non-uniform quantizer, and finally we need a expander, that is exactly opposite of the compressor at the receiver side. Okay. So companding is nothing but it is a combination of compression and expanding. So that is called companding. Okay. So this is a compression and this is expansion. They should be exactly opposite of each other. So why? Because we don't want to alter our message signal. We are compressing we are using compressing only to realize the non-uniform quantizer. But in the process of compression, you are also changing the message signal. So that should not happen. So that's why what do? We do the reverse of the compression, that is called expansion at the receiver side, so that there won't be any change in the message signal. So this is the diagram tells us everything about the compression, expansion, and the combined effect of compression expansion is just like a straight line, which is nothing but there is no change in the message signal. Okay. Now these are the mostly widely used compressing techniques or compounding techniques. They are called ALA and MULA. So here mu should be 0 actually. This is something wrong here. Here this is mu equal to 0 means there is no compression. Here A equal to 1 means there is no compression. So for different values of mu, this is the compression. Here also for different values of A, this is the compression. So typically the values of A are 87.6, mu equal to 255. Now, so this graph tells us that the difference between uniform quantizer and the non-uniform quantizer. Okay. Now simply, so this is a graph between the relative input power in dBs versus SQNR. So if you take uniform quantizer, what is happening? For low input power, low SQNR. For high input power, high SQNR. That is not at all good. So here, in case of non-uniform quantizer, the SQNR is almost independent. It is almost a constant. More or less it is a constant. Which means, so the SQNR is independent of the input signal power. So that is highly desirable. Why? Because whether your input signal is weak signal or strong signal, doesn't matter. This non-uniform quantization provides relatively good SQNR. It is independent of the input signal. Input can be any kind of signal. It provides very good SQNR, almost a constant SQNR. Okay, but it is no. But this uniform quantizer is not providing the constant SQNR, but it is providing the linear SQNR. So this gap is there now. It is called compounding gain. So by using compounding only, we are getting this non-uniform and gain also, right? That's why this gap is called the compounding gain of the compressor or compounder. Okay. So this is one kind of pulse modulation technique called pulse amplitude modulation. So it is just like sampling only, but so in the sampling generally we use a train of impulses. Here we are using a train of carrier pulses, each having a period of Ts and having a width of capital T. Now what is happening here? It is just like that. So at each and every Ts time we get a rectangular pulse of width capital T, and the amplitude of the rectangular pulse follows the amplitude of the message signal. That's what it's called, pulse amplitude modulation. So this diagram tells us everything about pulse amplitude modulation, and the same way we have pulse width modulation and pulse position modulation. Now we start today's class. So it is called pulse code modulation. So what is that exactly? What is a pulse code modulation? Okay. Now, so this is the diagram of the pulse code modulation. Okay. So these are the blocks of the pulse code modulation. First of all, what it contains? It contains the blocks are low pass filter. What is the purpose of this low pass filter? It eliminates any frequency components that is beyond FM. Why? Because so we already seen that. So in the sampling, in the quantization, always we need any signal that is band limited to frequency FM. We call FM. So this low pass filter, also called anti-aliasing filter, will remove any frequencies that are beyond FM or more than FM. So after this low pass filter, our signal becomes a band limited signal. So which means the signal at the output of this low pass filter will not contain any frequencies that are greater than the FM frequency. So remaining blocks are very simple. We already seen sampling, quantization, encoder. So what are this is called? Commonly called as what? ADC only. Just now we have seen, right? So simply the transmitter of this PCM is what? Analog to digital converter. Nothing more than that. Okay. So if you look at carefully, all these are what? Commonly called as what? Analog to digital converters. Okay. So simply the PCM transmitter is nothing but ADC. What is that? ADC. Nothing more than that. Okay. Now, so here, so we got a PCM signal. Now we have to transmit that over a channel. Okay. So here there is something important that is called regenerative repeaters. What do you mean by that? Okay. So the main job of these regenerative repeaters is, what they do is they reproduce the clean and noise free PCM signals. What they will do? They reproduce a clean and noise free PCM signals. Means what? Generally what happens here is, so here you are getting a PCM signal. What is the PCM signal? It is just like a digital signal having ones and zeros, something like this. Okay. Now, so what do we do? Suppose you are transmitting from point A to point B. Okay, you are transmitting from point A to point B. So you are transmitting from point A. What are you transmitting? You are transmitting some PCM signal, which is nothing but a digital signal, something like this. So along the transmission path, we keep some regenerative repeaters close enough. Okay, so we keep them at regular intervals of distance. What they will do means, suppose you are transmitting from point A. What you are transmitting? You are transmitting this signal. So by the time the signal reaches this point, so it may be corrupted by noise. So let me take, you may receive something like this. So your signal may be corrupted. You may receive something like this. Okay. So at this point, so at a point, from point A, you are transmitting a clean signal, but at this point, let us take, you are receiving something like this, which is somewhat distorted. Now, so this regenerative repeaters, what it will do? It will remove these small variations. Okay, what it will do? It will reproduce a clean PCM signal. Okay, so this will be done here. Now again you are transmitting from this point. So by the time you reach this point, again what may happen? So this may be corrupted by some noise. Again this may become something like this. Again, so this repeater will remove the small noise that is present. So again what happens? You are transmitting from this point to this point. Again at this point, again it may be corrupted. So we are removing the noise at small distances by using this regenerative repeaters. Okay, so they are placed close enough to each other along the transmission path. So here what the main purpose is, they don't let the noise to be accumulated. They avoid the accumulation of noise. So here why? Because so we are keeping them very close to each other. As I told you just now, so we are keeping, suppose you are transmitting from point A to point B over let us take some 100 kilometers, for example. So what happens here is, suppose so you are transmitting from this point to this point. The distance is 100 kilometers. So if you don't remove noise along the transmission path, what may happen? So noise may be getting accumulated. So to avoid that, what are you doing? So we are doing something like this. So instead of removing the noise at the point B, we are removing the noise at smaller distances. We remove noise here. Okay. Next, we remove noise somewhere here after some small distance. Again, we remove some noise after some small distance using this regenerative repeaters, which means so noise will be removed here. Again, noise will be removed here. Again, noise will be removed here. We are not allowing noise to getting accumulated. Otherwise, we are not allowing noise to getting added. We are just removing as soon as it is getting added. Okay, so that is called regenerative repeaters, and this is a receiver of the PCM which contains decoder, reconstruction filter, and the destination. So it is nothing but, so the transmitter of the PCM is ADC. Obviously, that would be DAC. DAC means what? Digital to analog converter. So this is simply receiver of the PCM. So PCM is very simple technique where the transmitter is nothing but ADC and the receiver is nothing but DAC, reverse of that, digital to analog converter. But the only thing is we are using the regenerative repeaters to produce clean and noise free PCM signals after a small distance. Okay, we keep such regenerative repeaters along the transmission path to avoid the accumulation of noise. Okay, so we are not allowing the noise to be getting added. As soon as it is getting added, we are removing along the transmission path. Okay, now, so this is the simple diagram which shows. So this is the sine wave and the corresponding PCM signal. It's just ADC, analog to digital converter. But here, so one thing should be understood very clearly. So here, what is the name of this technique? I told you, pulse code modulation. Okay, so if I say modulation means what should happen? So the modulation means, suppose if I say amplitude modulation, the amplitude of the carrier should change according to the amplitude of the message signal. Same thing with the frequency, where the frequency modulation means frequency of the carrier should change with the message signal. So here nothing is changing. First of all, where is the carrier? Where is the message signal? There is no carrier. You just look at the transmitter and receiver. There is no carrier. There is no message signal, something like that. Okay, so nothing changing. Look at the waveform. So look at the waveform. What is changing? Nothing is changing, right? So we have seen all types of modulation techniques, AM, FM, PM. So there the parameter of the carrier is changing according to the message signal. So that is the definition of modulation. But here nothing is changing. So that's why conventionally it is not a modulation technique at all. Because just read it. So one of the characteristics of the carrier is varied in a proportion with the amplitude of the message signal. Nothing of that sort is happening in PCM. There is no variation of the carrier according to the message signal. First of all, there is no carrier at all. So it is not a modulation technique conventionally. Just we call it as a modulation technique in the sense that, then why you call it as a modulation technique? Because here in the sampling process, we are doing something like modulation. Why? Why? Because if you go to the sampling process, what do you do there? In the sampling, what is sampling first of all? So you take a message signal, multiply with a train of impulses, train of periodic impulses, isn't it? Now, in that sense, it is called a modulation. Why? Because it is similar to the multiplying message with carrier. Yeah. So here, so this is a message signal, this is a carrier signal. You just assume this is a carrier. We are multiplying these two just like a modulation. Now here, what is happening here? So the amplitude of the pulses, the amplitude of the impulses changing according to the message signal. So the sampling is similar to the modulation, somewhat similar to the modulation, isn't it? So message signal multiply with a periodic carrier, and there is a output of the modulation or modulated signal where the amplitude of these pulses or impulses changes according to the message signal. So in that sense, it is called a modulation techniques, but conventionally it is not at all a modulation technique. Just because there is sampling is resembles with a modulation, so that's why it is called pulse code modulation. Okay, so that is only the logical thinking about the PCM being called as a modulation technique. Okay, so very simple thing is there, just transmitter receiver. In the transmission path we have a regenerative repeaters which eliminates the accumulation of the noise at regular intervals. Okay, now so PCM minimum SQNR should be 23. Let us take one example. In a PCM, minimum SQNR should be 23 dB for a sinusoidal signal. Calculate the number of quantization levels required. Okay, so I hope you can solve this. Some solution is very simple. So for sine wave and cos wave, what is SQNR? It is 1.8 plus 6n dBs. In dBs it is 1.8 plus 6n. But what they are asking, so they want to have a minimum of 23 dB. So what is n value now from this? N equal to 23 minus 1.8 by 6. You get around 3.553. But n should be integer. So why? Because what is n? It is the number of encoding bits. So that's why I am taking. So the next possible integer for 3.553, that is 4. If n equal to 4, so L equal to 2 power 4, that equal to 16. Okay. So let us take one more example. So an analog voltage in the voltage range of 0 to 8 volts is divided into 16 equal intervals for conversion to a 4-bit digital output. So the maximum quantization error in volts is what they given. So they given dynamic range and they need 16 intervals, which means 16 levels to a 4-bit digital output, n equal to 4, L equal to 16. So this is the dynamic range. Now, so they gave you the solution is like this. The dynamic range is 0 to 8 volts, means 8 volt is a dynamic range. So the number of levels are 16. So the maximum quantization error is delta by 2. We know already, isn't it? So what is delta? It is dynamic range by L. That is 8 by 16, 0.5. So delta is 0.5. So the maximum quantization error is delta by 2, that is 0.5 by 2, that is 0.25 or 1 by 4. Okay. So there is one more example. A message signal like this is transmitted using PCM. The maximum quantization error should be at most 0.1% of the peak amplitude of the message signal. Find the bit rate. Okay, you solve this. So here, so this is a MATLAB example. So what I have taken is, I have taken a message signal m of t, that is 4 sin 4 pi t is transmitted using PCM with a mid-rise quantizer. Please very carefully written, and given fs equal to 1000 fm. So the sampling rate is 1000 fm. So here this is m of t, that is being transmitted in the PCM using what type of quantizer? Mid-rise uniform quantizer. Now this is a quantized signal. So what type of quantization? Mid-rise. Okay. So if you sample and quantize this message signal, you get something like this. Okay. Next, this is the quantization error. I told you already, it will be something like this. So what is the maximum of the error? 0.5. Minimum is minus 0.5. Here, so now how many levels are there here? How many different levels are there? 8 levels. Okay. So you just tell me what is delta here? Delta is dynamic range by number of levels. What is the dynamic range of this input signal? Dynamic range means maximum minus minimum. 4 minus of minus 4, 8. 8 by number of levels are also equal to 8. Total equal to 1. Delta equal to 1 here. So delta equal to 1, L equal to 8, obviously N equal to 3. Okay. So this is the quantized signal. After sampling and quantization, this is the output. This is the quantization error. So this is the decoder signal. See, if you look at the PCM transmitter, what is happening here? So we have to sample, quantize, encode. After that we have to transmit. In the receiver part, we have to, what you should do? We have to decoder. After this regeneration, there is a decoder followed by reconstruction filter. So decoder means you know already. What is a reconstruction filter? It is nothing but a low pass filter having a bandwidth that is equal to FM actually, ideally FM. We have seen. Why is this reconstruction? See, actually, so generally I told you, suppose if you are doing something at the transmitter side, we do almost reverse at the receiver side. That is what a modulation and demodulation, a transmitter and receiver mean. If you are doing something at the transmitter side, we try to do exactly opposite at the receiver side. So just look at this. We are doing sampling at the transmitter side. What do? We do reconstruction at the receiver side. Because we know already sampling and reconstruction are just reverse of each other. So there is a quantizer. I told you already, it is a irreversible process. There is no reverse of quantization. That's why nothing is there in this side. So there is an encoder. Obviously there should be a decoder. As simple as that. Okay. So decoder, reconstruction filter, this is simply destination. Okay. So that is what is there in the receiver part. Okay. So now this is a decoded version and this is finally a reconstructed signal. So something like to the message signal. It is not exactly message signal but similar to message signal. There are some errors will be there. Okay. So this is what the output of the PCM. Receiver, not transmitter. Okay. So these diagrams tells us how PCM works. Okay. Now I am taking one more example. Here I am transmitting 3.574 pi t using PCM with mid-rate quantizer. I told you already it is another type of uniform quantizer. Okay. So here what is happening here? So this is a message signal having the maximum of 3.5, not 4. So this is a quantized signal. Okay. Here how many levels will be there? In the mid-rate generally we take odd number of levels. So I told you, so we take here 7 levels. Okay, 7 levels should be there. So this is a quantized signal. This is the error. It is how it's look like. This is how it look like. Okay. Now this is the decoded signal. This is the reconstructed signal of the at the output of the PCM receiver. Okay. So that is how the pulse code modulation. Okay. Now, so let us go to the another version of pulse code modulation, that is called differential pulse code modulation. Okay. So here, so now let me tell you one important thing. So what do you mean by differential pulse code modulation? Here the name itself indicates it is a pulse code modulation having a differential input. What input? Differential input. So here this is a transmitter. It is different from the transmitter of PCM. So there is a feedback loop, feedback path. So it is having some other components also like predictor. Okay. Now, so let us find out what is all these things. Sampled input, X of NTS is called sampled input. Now there is a predictor. So input to the predictor is what? U of NTS. Output is X cap of NTS. Here what is this output of the summer? What is this? What is E of NTS? It is called error. It is called prediction error. What is E of NTS? It is X of NTS minus X cap of NTS. E of NTS. Okay. Now what is the quantizer input? Input to the quantizer is E of NTS. Output is V of NTS. Okay. Now can you tell me? So we have two summers. What is the output of the summer? What is input first of all? Input is V of NTS and X cap of NTS. Now output of the summer is, what is U of NTS? That is V of NTS plus X cap of NTS. You write down all those things on a piece of paper, so to avoid any confusion. So to the predictor, what is the input? U of NTS. What is the output? X cap of NTS. So we have one quantizer, two summers, one predictor. So actually there should be a de-encoder also. After this there should be encoder. Okay, I did not write here, but there should be encoder here. So just get yourself familiar with these terminologies. X of NTS, X cap of NTS, E of NTS, U of NTS, V of NTS. Okay. So now this is called the predictor of order P, linear predictor. What it contains? So generally the job of the predictor is to predict the future sample from past sample. It's a prediction. So by observing the past values, you should be able to predict the present or future values. Okay. Now this is a typical linear predictor of order P. What is the order? It depends upon the number of delay elements. Okay. Now here you know already this is Z inverse. X of n into X, Z inverse is nothing but X of n minus 1. It's a digital kind of things. So after that you get X of n minus 2, so on so on, X of n minus p plus 1. Finally you get X of n minus v. So X of n minus v means after passing through n unit delay elements. So W1, W2 are called multiplication coefficient. So what is the output of this predictor? It's called X cap of n. What is the output of the predictor? X cap of n, NTS. So I am not writing TS here. So for simplicity, I am not writing any TS here. So what is the predictor output? X cap of n. How it is that? How it is? It is something like this. It is W1 into X of n minus 1 plus W2 into X of n minus 2 plus so on so on WP minus 1 into X of n minus p plus 1 plus so on WP into X of n minus p. This is what the output of the predictor. Here we have to choose this multiplication coefficients W1, W2, W3 very cleverly so that the prediction will be accurate. Okay. So this is a linear predictor because we are adding everything linearly. Okay. Now what is the first order predictor? Which means, so there is only one delay element. What is order P means? There are P number of delay elements. So first order means there is only one delay element. Now if it is a first order predictor, X output is X cap of n equal to simply X of n minus 1. Simply previous input. Previous input, no? X of n is the present input, X cap of n, X of n minus would be a previous input. So if it is a first order predictor, the output of the predictor will be simply its previous input. Otherwise X cap of n equal to X of n minus 1. So for second and third order you need to write this equation, which is very very important. Okay. Now so let me take some important concepts. So assume that the sampling period is normalized, which means t is equal to 1. So xn, x of, what is xn? X of n is what? Sampled input. What is x cap of n? The predictor output. X cap of, if you remove ts, otherwise if you make ts equal to 1, otherwise if ts is normalized, x of n is called sampled input, x cap of n is the output of the predictor. Next, E of n is called error. What error? Prediction error. Why? Because here it is error between a sampled value and its prediction. What is E of n? X of n minus x cap of n. So the error is called prediction error. Now please remember here, we are quantizing the error. We are quantizing the error, which means we are quantizing the difference between a sampled signal and its prediction. That's what is called differential PCM. So here we are not quantizing the input samples directly. Instead of that, we are quantizing the difference between input sample and its prediction, or we are quantizing the error, prediction error. Okay. So what is x of n from this equation? E of n plus x cap of n. E of n is a input to the quantizer. Please make a note of this. What is E of n? Input to the quantizer. Okay. What is the output of the quantizer? V of n. I am not writing ts each and every time. Okay. Now, so V of n is a quantizer output. So what is U of n? What is U of n? That is the input to the predictor. What is that? What is U of n? Just now I told you. That is V of n plus x cap of n. What is that? V of n plus x cap of n is the input to the predictor. So here U of n is the input to the predictor, x cap of n is the output of the predictor, E of n is the error, or it is also input to the quantizer, and V of n is the output of the quantizer. Is it okay all of you? Right? Now, so the quantizer output is represented as, so if you know already, so I can write output of the quantizer V of n equal to some function q of E of n, isn't it? So you know already, I have written xq equal to q of x. Okay, so the quantizer output, the quantizer value equal to function of the input sample. Okay, now here that's why what I have written here is output of the quantizer equal to q of input of the quantizer. So but we can also write, so that is same as input minus the quantization error. So the output of the quantizer is nothing but input to the quantizer minus the quantization error. Otherwise error equal to input to the quantizer minus output of the quantizer. So these are all some q of n is called, what is called, another term, extra term we are getting, that is called quantization error. There are two errors: prediction error, what is that, E of n, and what is q of n, the quantization error. Okay. Now, so predictor input is sum of the quantizer output and the predictor input. So predictor input, please observe this diagram very carefully. So what is the input to the predictor? U of n. But what is U of n equal to? X cap of n plus V of n. Okay. Let me write this already. Let me write this very carefully. U of n equal to V of n plus x cap of n. That implies, what is V of n? E of n minus Q of n. So I am writing V of n as E of n minus Q of n plus x cap of n. So observe these things very carefully. So E of n equal to, so here what is E of n plus x cap of n? What is that? E of n plus x cap of n. Where is that? So that equal to x of n minus q of n. So here it is, x of n equal to E of n plus x cap of n. So E of n plus x cap of n equal to x of n minus q of n, so as it is. So combinedly these two are called x of n. So here x of n minus x q of n. First of all, what is x of n? What is that? Sampled value minus quantized value is nothing but quantized output. So x q of n is x of n minus q of n is nothing but x q of n. It is a quantized version of the input signal x of n. So this diagram, this bracket gives us everything about the above transmitter of the DPCM. So U of n is nothing but, so please be careful. So U of n is nothing but equal to what? X q of n. So try to write everything on a piece of paper so that you will get a clarity. So U of n equal to x q of n, that is the predictor input. So but what is x q of n equal to? What is that? So V of n plus x of n. So x q of n equal to what? V of n plus x cap of n. So I am writing all the possible combinations. That's it. Okay. So you must remember all these combinations. They are very, very important. So we will make use of them in the coming classes, coming topic. So try to understand these things. So you do one thing, you take a piece of paper, try to write by looking at this diagram. You look at this diagram, write everything, you will get to know all those things. It's not a big deal at all. Okay. So if you don't write on a piece of paper, you will get confusion. So that's why I request everyone to write the everything on a piece of paper by using the this diagram. Okay. It's very, very simple. It is not that hard. Okay. So now, so here this is a receiver, DPCM receiver. Now here, so the same predictor circuit is used in the decoder. So suppose we are using some predictor in the transmitter. You are using some predictor circuit in the transmitter. Same thing has to be used in the receiver. Same thing. Okay, we use same predictor in the receiver also. So receiver is something like this. As I told you. So let me go back. Here there should be a what? Encoder. I told you already. So you are missing, but make sure that there is encoder here. What should be there? Encoder. So what the receiver should contain? First block should be decoder. Okay. So decoder followed by some circuit. Same predictor is being used at the receiver side also. You try to calculate what happens here. So E of NTS. Here what output you get here at this point? Here what you get at this point? What is the output of the summer? V of n plus x cap of n. V of n plus x cap of n. What is that equal to? U of n. But what is U of n equal to? X q of n. Okay. So it continues. So there is a feedback, something like feedback in the transmitter and receiver. So something like feedback is there. This is a feedback accumulation. So actually this is called accumulator. So I think you are studying these things in DSP, correct? So this is called accumulator, isn't it? So this is what the transmitter and receiver of the DPCM. Okay. Now, so what advantage of DPCM? Already we have PCM. Why should we go for DPCM? Okay. The question is, why anyone should go for a DPCM? Here, So if you take naturally occurring audio video signal, they have high correlation. So what the correlation means? Similarity. So if there is a similarity, it lead to redundancy. So what do you mean by redundancy? It is something like unnecessary transmitted signals. Okay. So redundant means they are not that necessary to transmit. Even though you don't transmit them, there won't be any much loss. Okay, that is meaning of redundancy. Now you take about this having less correlation and high correlation. So I have taken a simple signal. Okay, for example, so if you use very few number of samples, what happens? So the neighboring samples are not that similar, or they are having less similarity. So why? Because here the sample value is somewhat 1, here it is somewhat 0.4, something like that. Okay, so the neighboring samples are not similar. Okay, so it is something like called having a less correlation. But you take the second example. What is happening? I am using more number of samples to represent the signal. What is happening? So the neighboring samples are very close to each other. They have very similar values. Something like, suppose if the sample value is 1.1, let us take. Okay, so the present sample is 1. So the next sample value can be very, very close to 1, maybe 1.11. Now we say that these two samples are having high amount of correlation, or they said to have a high amount of similarity. So it is called having high correlation. So what happens is, when you sample a signal with more number of samples or more, see, I told you already, having a more sampling rate means using more number of samples. So when you sample a signal with high sampling rate, what will happen? The neighboring samples possess high amount of correlation. Why? Because so the difference between these two samples is very, very much more than the difference between these two samples. So in this scenario, so the neighboring samples would be having very, very high amount of similarity. Now, so we exploit this opportunity. What we do is, so instead of quantizing and encoding each and every sample, what we do? We quantize the difference between these two neighboring samples. Okay, what I do here is, so instead of quantizing all the samples, what I do here is, I will take the difference between these two samples. First two samples, I will quantize, encode only that difference, not the sampled values. I will quantize the difference between two neighboring samples. Next, I will quantize the difference between these two neighboring samples, so on. Okay, so that can be useful if and only if they have a high amount of correlation. So here, instead of quantizing the samples itself, we are quantizing the difference between two neighboring samples, or we are quantizing the difference between neighboring samples. That's what it's called differential pulse code modulation. So why are you doing so? You're doing so because they have a high amount of similarity or high amount of correlation. So we can remove this redundancy by employing the differential pulse code modulation whenever there is a high amount of correlation between any two neighboring samples. Okay, so that is for simply DPCM. Okay, so let me take simple example. So I have these samples. I am assuming they are highly correlated. Okay, so for explanation purpose, I am assuming that they are highly correlated. Okay, so if you use DPCM, what will happen? So this is the quantizer, mid-range quantizer. Now, so what is the difference between any two neighboring samples? Maximum difference, you can take 0.3 here, maybe how much is that? 1.2 here, 0.8 here, 0.6 here, 1.3. So the maximum difference between any two successive samples is 1.3. Now I will design the quantizer accordingly, because here I have to quantize the difference between the successive samples, not the samples themselves. Okay. Now, so here, now that's why I taken this. Now this is a diagram, this is a table, gives us the all the required terms. I am using the first order predictor. For example, as I told you, the first order predictor means the output of the predictor is nothing but so here let me go back here. So the first order predictor means, here what do you mean by that? So first order prediction means what? Okay, so what is that? First order means output is same as previous value, which means, so x cap of n equal to, what do you get? U of n minus 1. U of n minus 1, the previous value. Otherwise, you take care of this diagram, that is very, very important. Okay, here, so x cap of n is nothing but x q of n minus 1. It is simply the first order predictor output. That is the previous input. So what is the previous input? U of n. Okay, so but what is U of n? U of n is nothing but x q of n. So what is U of n minus 1? X q of n minus 1. Okay, so you draw all the figures on a piece of paper, try to write everything in detail so that you will get to know everything. So it is not a big deal at all. Okay, now next what I am doing here is, so I am taking the first sample, okay, that is 0. Okay, now what happens here is, so 0 initially, so the output of the predictor is 0. Initially the output of this predictor is 0. Okay, 0, initially 0. Okay, next what is error? Error is 0, because what is error actually? X of n minus x cap of n. This minus this. What is that? 0. Now, so if the E of n is 0, what is the quantizing? Because see, we are quantizing the error. Please make a note of this. We are quantizing the error. So if the error is 0, what is quantized to? 0 means it lies in which quadrant? Third interval. So third interval means it is quantized to 0.5. Okay. So error 0 is being quantized to 0.5. Okay. So what is x q of n? What is x q of n? V of n plus x cap of n. You just find out. So that is V of n plus x cap of n. This much. Okay. So that is about first output. Now, what is the next sample? 0.3. Take here 0.3. Now, so here, what is x cap of n? So this would be come here. This comes here. This is x q of n. Now, what is x q of n minus 1 means? It comes here. Just like feedback, no? It comes here. Okay. Now, what is the difference? What is error? 0.3 minus 0.5, minus 0.2. So you have to quantize this minus 0.2. It lies in which quadrant? Minus 0.2 means it lies in what quadrant? Means second quadrant. Correct? So in second quadrant, it is a quantized to minus 0.5. Right? So it is quantized to minus 0.5. It is quantized to what? Minus 0.5. So what is x q of n? X q of n is what? So a v of n plus x of n. So v of n, this one, plus what is x of n? Again 0.5. 0.5 minus 0.5, 0. Okay. Next. So next sample is 1.5. Correct? 1.5. Take this. 1.5. Now what is x q of n minus 1? This comes here in the next cycle. Something like that. Okay. This comes here. So what is error? 1.5 minus 0, 1.5. So 1.5 quantized to 1.5 only. Okay. Because there is no error. I mean 1.5 is quantized to what? 1.5, right? So 1.5 means lies in the third interval. So lies in the fourth interval. So means in the fourth interval, what is the quantization level? 1.5. So 1.5 only. So then what happens? So 1.5 only. So what is xk of n? Calculate. So you similarly go like this. Now what are you transmitting finally? What are you transmitting in this diagram? You're transmitting what is the output actually? V of NTS. Obviously I told you we should encode the output of V of NTS. Okay. So actual output is V of NTS. Now, so if you draw all these column elements, that is output of the transmitter of the DPCM. So like this, and if you this is data you are encoding. We are encoding like this. Okay. How to encode? This is encoding. So if it is 1.5 encode 11 something like that. So this is what being transmitted from the transmitter of DPCM. Okay. Now the receiver side. What will happen receiver side? We have what? What do you receive? Finally, you V of n. So same, we repeat same thing. You just look at the receiver. So here, what is the output of the receiver? U of n. U of n is same as what? Xq of n. Just we have to follow the same procedure. Okay. Now, so initially 0, xq of n is same as V of n. You follow this. Xq of n equal to xq of n equal to V of n plus x cap of n. This plus this 0.5. Okay, this comes here again. So minus 0.5 plus 0.5 again 0. So 0 comes here. Again this comes here. So 1.5 plus 0, 1.5. This comes here. This comes here. This comes here. So finally, this is what is the output of the DPCM receiver. So we have transmitted this and we have received this. Obviously, there are some errors. Errors because of quantization as well as sampling. Okay. Now I have taken a simple MATLAB program. So I have taken a sawtooth waveform. So this is the, okay, just a minute. Sawtooth waveform where, so original signal is this solid line is the original signal and this dotted line is a DPCM signal. So there are some errors, but anyway more or less it is matching. Okay, so that is about DPCM. Correct. So you just go through it once, you will get to know each other. Okay. So thank you. We stop here. Thank you.